Welcome to NWA Connie Corsos podcast, where we talk all things dogs.
Hello, welcome back to NWA Connie Corsos, where we talk all things dogs. Glad everybody's back. Today we got a very special guest, but I always say we got a very special guest, but this time I really mean it because there's two Arkansas boys on this thing this time. Two hogs in the house.
Yeah.
Our brother Brad Sneed from Circle S Kennels. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, Brother Joe.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So what part of the state are you in?
So I live in Cleburne County. It's north central Arkansas. It's about an hour north of Little Rock on the Greers Ferry Lake in a town called Heber Springs.
Yeah, the beautiful Heber Springs.
Yep.
I think I've been one time. I just remember some like rolling kind of areas and things like that. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right. That's
yeah.
right.
So let me ask you this here. You're the owner of Circle S Kennels. You are a minister.
That's correct.
How long have you been a minister?
The Lord started working on calling me to preach, I think, when I was about 21 or 22 years old. I ran track at Arkansas State in Jonesboro.
Oh, okay, cool.
And I was the long jumper there. And I was not finding fulfillment in athletics like I thought that I would. And I was trying to do everything that I could to make my life. And I knew the Lord was calling me. So I started seminary and the ministry. And so I'm 43 now. So
Yeah.
I've been doing about 20, 22, 21 years.
Well, yeah. And before we got on, y'all, that's the first thing I asked him because I didn't never hear him say it, but I knew he was a man of faith, but I could just feel it on him because my dad was a pastor. I'm a PK, so. Yeah. So let's get into these dogs here. I didn't know you was here, brother. I'm sorry. And once I saw you, I was like, wow, okay. But my brother, Doug Coppage, he's the co-producer of this show. He said, "Do you know this guy down there about you?" Like, no. And he said, I said, golly, yeah, because I'm up in the northwest Arkansas area. He's down there by the central. So yeah. And you got a very impressive channel, man. But I'm gonna let the people, y'all go to his channel because I was really digging that hunting, what would you call it? A hunting van, a hunting vehicle, whatever it was.
Yeah, man, we got all kinds of stuff, you know. That's a Can-Am. You talking about the six-wheeler?
Yeah,
Yep.
man.
That's what we take out in the woods, and it's a tank, and it's totally set up to do that. You know, our trailer that we had built, it's got living quarters in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've been doing this a very, very long time. I'm just pretty new to social media. You know, I just don't. You know, my buddies talked to me for years, you know, hey, you ought to be showing this and showing that. And I was like, I'm not really, you know, the one to show off or whatever. And so every time I would take a picture, it was always just of the dogs and people were stealing my photos and stuff like that. Been doing that for years because I was never in any of the photos and they couldn't prove anything. And so I was like, well, I'll take a few pictures of me. And so we just recently started the social media thing about 7 weeks ago, something like that.
Hey man, what I've seen has been impressive, and I get it because you know when you have to show and prove nowadays through social media, and that means that you got to kind of expose yourself a little bit.
That's right.
I don't had to drag a few dog men on here.
Yeah.
You know, so I totally get it, man. But when did you kind of get into your first love for dogs? And I'm gonna build on that too.
Okay.
And how did that roll over into the Dogo?
So, you know, my family's had dogs ever since I can remember. I don't know of a generation in my family that didn't have dogs and hunt with dogs. And when I say have dogs, I'm not talking one or two or four or five. I'm 20, 30 at a time, 40. We had dogs, hunting, all kinds of hunting dogs. That's what we used for food, you know, to hunt. I grew up dirt road poor, man. When I was little, we didn't, I can remember food being short. I can remember busting out, how living in places with the windows busted out, but we always had dogs. And my daddy and my grandpa would be gathering up scraps from the local cafes and bread stores, and that's how we fed the dogs, along with the remains, the animals we killed, and we used them to help survive. And so at a very early age, my earliest memories in life were, my dad saying, we had a litter of puppies underneath the house, and it's too tight for me to crawl underneath there and get them. I need you to go underneath there and count them. I was like 4 years old. I
Yeah.
crawl underneath the house and I count them, and I said, we got, 4 girls and 5 boys, and they look like this. And until they come out, my dad never knew what they were. And so those are my earliest memories. It's just always been a part of who I am.
Right, right. Yeah, so you're a good old country boy.
Oh man.
Yeah, yeah. And I know I'm from Little Rock, and they try to say we city, but if you're in Arkansas, you country.
That's
You
right.
know what I mean?
That's right. Little Rock and Fayetteville is the city if you grew up where I'm from. But
Mhm.
if you're from Beverly Hills or Miami, Little Rock is the country. There ain't no doubt.
Hey, I tell you what, up here in Northwest Arkansas, people are running here out of California and all over the country.
Yeah.
It's crazy. We wish they'd go back.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah.
Boy, it's getting nuts up here.
Yep.
Um, so the Dogo, how did you get involved in it, and what sparked your interest about those dogs?
So, many years ago, the hog problem in Arkansas, man, it started to grow and grow. And hog hunting provided an opportunity where I could hunt and use my dogs year round, and there wasn't a season. And so, since I'm a hunter that likes to be in the woods every week of the year, we kind of transitioned from hunting everything else to just hogs. And this is a long time ago. This is many years ago, but I started researching what the best hog hunting dogs were, because I was familiar with many hunting breeds, and I'd had a lot of them, and I love most nearly all kinds of dogs. I'm just a dog man.
Mhm.
You meet these guys, if you don't have what they have, then your dog is not a good dog or whatever. I like all kinds of dogs, but I do have my favorites. And so I did a little research, and I found this dog called the Dogo Argentino, and I was like, man, they look pretty cool. And so I sent out an email to Argentina, and Ulysses de Andre Nores, that is the grandson of the creator of the breed, he answered my email at La Cocha. And I was like, man, there ain't no way I'm talking to this dude. This has got to be, because this guy's famous. He's the world leader in, the Dogo, whatever.
Mhm.
And I was like, I'm probably talking to a AI person, or one of his workers.
Right.
Well, then he calls me on the phone, and we start talking, and we realize that we're a lot alike. He's an old cowboy, and I'm an old cowboy. He's a country boy, and I'm a country boy, but we both have, different jobs, but we love to hunt. And we started talking about the Dogo and really what we look for in a dog in general, and we kind of agreed. And I wound up getting some dogs from him, and then we became fast friends. And now it's to the point to where I just met with La Cocha in Dallas last week, and we filmed the announcement of the book on the Dogo Argentino that I helped write. And I
Oh,
feel very privileged and honored. Now, I could have took up, he invited me to write a chapter in it. So
right.
Ulysses and Jorge at La Cocha, they wrote the book and invited a couple of other people to say a few words about the Dogo, and I was one of those guys. And so we met, talked about the book, when it's going to come out, and I took my camera guy and he videoed everything, and we're working on the video right now. So when it stay tuned to my social media, because we're going to release that, and it's going to be in Spanish and English. And so once that book is written, there's a lot of people that have given some great insight, over the dogs, but this book is going to be like nothing else, because this is not going to be like what you learn about the history of the breed from Wikipedia, or what you learn about the history this is going to be coming straight from the source of the family, of the secrets that are passed down that what made these dogs, and the other people who really, really understand that philosophy. And
Mhm.
so the philosophy of the dog, people don't talk about that a lot. They talk about They talk about the breed standard, that's sizes and measurements. They
Mm-hmm.
talk about temperament, but they don't usually talk about philosophy. And so last night I recorded my first series that we're going to start doing this fall. It's called Hunting Stories, and I'm just passing along some of the most incredible hunts that I've ever been on, and what these dogs have done, and how they stay by my side, and how they'll go till the end, and all the crazy things that I've accomplished with them. And so that's more about the philosophy of the dog, what you're looking at inside the heart, and what you're looking at between the ears.
So
So
you mean the function pretty much is what you're
that's
saying?
right.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
Yeah.
there's form and function, and
Yeah.
so there's lots of people that can talk about form, but very few out there are talking about function. And let's face it, there's just a lot of people that, and I'm proud that the dogs are everywhere. I want the breed, but most of our customers, matter of fact, 99% of our customers live in town, and they want the dog for home protection. They have no desires to work the dog. That is fine. But for the people breeding them like me, we keep that original function alive, function with their body, mind, and spirit, not just their body, not just their mind, but what's in here. So we're going to talk about that in the book as well, and I talk about it on our the what we recorded last night.
Right. Yeah, I noticed that yeah, there is that divide, but it's really a lot of people starting to come back to the function of what the dog. A lot of people don't tell you what dogs were bred for. Like when
Yep.
they come to oppressors,
Yep.
bigger dogs, Corsos, things like that. They don't really tell you what they bred for. So you doing it well. I'll get into hunting in a little bit, but let's stay on the doggo for a minute. So how old is this breed of dog?
It's a little over 100 years old.
Okay, it's an older dog. Okay, yeah.
And so you can see the early 1900s. Dr. Antonio Norres Martinez, that's the guy that created them. It took him a long time to do that, but they finally come into breed, a little over 100 years old, give or take, however you want to. But we're still learning some things about them. They're so like at La Cocha, we talk about things that the dog has been in existence long enough now that we see kind of what we like. We see some of the issues that there has been with the dogs, and
Mhm,
where we can take our breeding to kind of fix some of that, not fix it, but kind of steer it towards
mhm.
certain things. And that is coming straight out of Cordoba. And I'll give you one example. Everybody wanted to breed them white, 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 and then they got them so white, albino looking, that the skin problems became more of an issue. So then, 50 years ago, I said, well, maybe a little black pigmentation, not in their hair, but in their skin, is good to have a little bit of that, and that'll help with some of these things. And so there was a balance there. It went one way, and now it's kind of swinging back. And so that those are some of the things you learn in a breed as it goes along, because it's a little bit different than saying, having a Rottweiler or a Presa or even a Cane. Their skin, that's just not a issue.
Right.
So with the Dogo, that's kind of one of the things that they looked at. So most of the dogs coming out of my kennel and La Cocha and these guys that are on the same page, there's a little bit more black ticking in the skin, not the hair. And
Mhm.
that really helps with hearing and skin problems. And so that's really kind of where we're going now. You'll still see the dogs that have pure white skin, and I'll have some in my kennel too.
Mhm.
But when you see some in show, they're usually powdered up, makeup, on and
Okay.
stuff like that. And
Right.
you can get them really, really white, but when their hair gets wet, underneath that hair on the skin, you can see some of that black in there.
Yeah, that's funny. You talking about that white dog? My buddy up in the New York area, uh, probably the most famous Central Asian Shepherd breed. He was telling me about not breeding two dogs that are too white. What kind of issues were y'all? You said you were having skin issues. Were you having any, maybe even blindness issues with the white skin?
So, not blindness as much. And whenever I say we, I'm speaking for like
The
maybe the
breed.
Dogo
Yeah.
community,
Yeah.
all together,
Yeah.
because at our kennels we have got such a deep, deep line. Most people get a couple of dogs and they breed them, and they don't ever go past the parents or grandparents. Well, at La Cocha and here, we've got the parents, the grandparents, the great grandparents, and so all these dogs that had exceptional hearing, and we're ruling stuff out as we go.
Yeah.
The Dogo community, we're getting shooting for the really, really white coats, and it just started popping up all over the United States and the world that these dogs were getting so white. And a little bit, you're going to have some inbreeding, and you're going to have dogs that have allergy tendencies, say at the bottom of the litter, and somebody finally gets that dog, and they're happy to get that dog. Maybe it's got an issue and shouldn't be bred, but the guy that has the dream to breed his own dogs, they don't think about the furtherance of the breed. They just think about, I want to have some puppies. And
Hmm.
then you know how that goes. You know how
Oh
that
yeah.
goes.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to tell people is hey, yes, white dogs are great, and all of my dogs are white, but underneath there you can see some of that black there, or maybe just a little bit extra, good black liner on their lips,
Hmm.
and good black eyeliner. So little things like that are making a difference to it, and it's really, I hope it cuts down on some of the issues that the dogos have had over the years. But that's basically all is hearing and maybe some allergies.
Right. So when you do something that I don't see a lot of people do. You talking about defects in dogs. You ask most breeders, we got no defects. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
they'll lie about that every time. Every dog
yeah.
got a defect. But so the defects that was in this breed, was it fixed by selection or was it fixed by adding in other dogs to your knowledge?
Well, basically, some of the bigger breeders that are on a world standard that are trying to do things for the breed are
Mhm.
trying to kind of head one direction. Basically, what you're going to see with dogos coming up is not necessarily what the guys are doing in a positive way. It's waiting for all the negativity to get out of the way.
Oh
So
yeah.
what I mean by that is you're about to see what happened with a dogo that you saw happen with the pit bull.
Hmm.
They're overbred, and all these problems arise. And there's nothing wrong with a pit bull. Some of these dogs that have been labeled as bad were probably inbred 3 or 4 times by people that didn't know what they're doing. They get a bad name. The same thing Americans did with the Rottweilers and the German Shepherds and the Labrador. They're going to overbreed them, and they'll find the defects there. And then when all those people clear out, and then hopefully there's enough people that care about the breed that'll keep pushing it on the right direction. Where it's going to be hard in the future to find the lines that are pure.
It is. And what is needed is that good clearing out. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? A lot of people blame COVID on the uptick of dogs, the new breeders. But I think they're getting out. The dog's gonna pay the price,
yeah, it
but
will.
yeah, they not gonna be able to last. You know,
Yeah.
because they did. You know, you as a business, they didn't build it up on a rock. You know what I mean?
That's exactly right. And
Right.
what happens in America in general, they people will get excited about something,
Hmm.
and everybody want to breed and do it. And listen, this is the land of the free. I'm not throwing rocks at all those people. I'm just
Oh yeah.
saying, whenever things like that happen, you get a certain breed of dog that'll flood the market. And there's been many breeds this has happened to.
Hmm.
When a dog gets popular, it'll flood, and then that water will slowly regress, and then you'll be left with the people who are there, that's hanging on to the true lines. And I think of myself as one of those people. I sure hope so. But
Hmm.
basically, after those things flood in and out, the dogo will stand the test of time. And just like any other breed, hopefully we can still find some true blood out there somewhere.
Right. Right. Yeah. 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 You're 100% right. A few of these breeds gonna have to recover from that mass interest and buy-in, and a lot of times too, Brad, the public don't know what these dogs are actually bred for, and so when guys like you come on and they get to hear straight from you,
Yeah.
and and a dog can get utilized in a proper way. Um,
Yeah.
you talked about temperament and its physical traits. What are how is that Dogo when it comes to temperament, and what size range is it normal for a working Dogo?
So in Argentina, we would say, the males between 43 and 45 kilograms, and that's like 99 pounds to 105.
Mhm,
And, you know, uh, people call me, I hear, it's like you, people call me from all over and they talk about their dogs. And
mhm.
the dogs that I have here that I'm hunting, the max will be 105. They'll be in that range. Now, their puppies, what happens is, is their puppies go home and mama gets a hold of them and they get about 5 years old and they're eating biscuits and gravy every day and they get up 125, 130. Now it's kind of like me, I get a little old belly on me,
Mhm.
but whenever these dogs are working, ideally you want them in a certain weight. And what I tell everybody is there's a region in college football that every day you start your morning in the weight room and everybody gets on a scale
Mhm.
every single day. The linemen get on a scale to make sure that they didn't do too much and eat too much and drink too much beer, because them linemen can jump up 10 pounds in a weekend. And
Yeah.
they put those backers on a scale and they make sure that they're not getting too light, because it's hard for the backers to gain weight, but they can lose it really quick. And so these dogs, there is a range that we want them in to have enough, as Papa says, lead in their pencil, but
Mhm.
still be athletic. And so we call the dogos the linebackers, because they got to be able to sprint hard and they got to be able to work in the trenches. They got to be able to do both. So there is a range that I want them in to be able to do their job effectively, and their size is something we take serious, because most people's like, oh, what does it matter if he weighs 130 or 80? Well, if you're hunting cougars and boars and bears and buffalo and stuff like that, that makes a big difference in life and death. For them to be in shape, to be able to handle and be able to move their body around and not be hard on their joints, it's a very, very hard work. And it's the difference um, in success and tragedy.
Right.
So we want them right there in that, the males in that range.
Gotcha.
So our
Um.
feeding program is, I mean, if we might talk about diet and exercise sometimes, but people usually see how I feed and train and what I do, and they're like, "Man, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of science." Well, there again, um, the boys that play for University of Alabama, their lifestyle is different than mine,
Right.
and so that's the way we treat our dogs. They have a very special diet. They have a special working regimen. They have supplements.
Go into it, Brad. I want to hear about it. I didn't know about this part, the diet and the exercise. What's kind of different than what that you're doing?
So there's a lot of food companies out there, and I won't mention the food companies that I work with right at the time, because I'm still deciding which one that we're going to work out a long term relationship with. But there's a lot of good food companies out there that you don't see or find on the internet. One is because they don't do as much business as some of the other cheaper mainline feeds, and
Mhm.
what they do is very specific, and it's also very expensive. And there's as many nutrients and minerals and powders and things that these dogs need to do this type of work, say like the sled dogs and the Iditarod that are pulling sleds in
Mhm.
Alaska. Those dogs don't have a normal lifestyle. And so when you're going and you're trekking across the Alaskan wilderness, you got to have special diets and you got to have special gummies and chews and proteins, and they eat certain things, and they have muscle recovery supplements. And so do my dogs, because when we go out there and catch these hogs, I mean, we catch whatever we catch in a day. You and I both know, a couple of guys like us, we get on the floor and we wrestle for about 2 minutes and we give out. It is
Mhm.
hard work
Yeah,
to
it is.
wrestle and to box. You
Yeah.
know, it's
Yeah.
it's hard. And
Yeah.
so the dogs that are doing this, they have to have a certain amount of kilocalories per cup in their feed That's called metabolizable energy, MEs. They need a certain amount of that. They need a certain amount of all of these other things to keep them up to working at their best. So we always have the edge. So my dogs don't just eat whatever we can find at the local store and say, "Oh, I hope that's good enough." No, it's a measure it out. It's put this in it, put that in it. It's this. It's after they recover, they eat this minerals on top of that. So we keep them in the best shape that we can possibly keep them in for working.
Brad, it sounds like you working on a lot of big things, brother.
Well,
I like it. Represent.
yeah, we're gonna represent it. So,
Yeah.
most people don't ask me questions like that. They
Uh-huh.
really they don't ever get into it like that.
Mhm.
But when you see my kennel and what the Lord has blessed us with,
Mhm.
like the tour of our kennel, or you
Right.
see that trailer, or you see that buggy, you
Yeah.
can probably gather we taking this pretty seriously.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
and whenever I need those dogs to continue on and they want to go on, having
Mhm.
the right nutrients and backing is key. And so it's something that me and a few of my buddies around the globe we talk about. Um, the scientists at the food company, we discuss it with them, the results we're getting, what is working, and what is not working, what's
Yeah.
worth it, what's not worth it, and how good the dogs look, how their skin is doing. And so that's just a little bit about it.
Right. Well, we waiting on it. We gonna
Yeah.
support it when it comes out. Um, so you do a little breeding too. What's your
Yep.
selection process uh for your dogs?
Man, the way I was raised, I grew up on a cattle farm, and my grandpa's brother, and all them they raised horses. And I always tell everybody my Uncle Wallace had some very, very nice halter horses. And halter horses are not known for how smart they are. They're known for how good they look. I mean, they are beautiful, beautiful, beautifully made quarter horses. And I told my Uncle Wallace one time, I said, "Have you ever had a horse that has satisfied you?"
Mm.
And he said, "Not really." And I would say, every year you raise all these colts out of the best in the world, and you buy the best stud coats around the world, and you'll keep them for a year and find a flaw with them and cut them, and you won't breed them. And he's like, "Well, I just found that one thing I didn't like, and I'm trying to create." So that's the way I was raised. And I have, when you're trying to create a product that's not your average product, the selection process is it goes like this for me. Everybody talks about breed standard. That's the set of measurements, okay? And
Yeah.
it's got to be inside those measurements. That's the easiest, okay?
Mm.
Um, it's got to be good with people and other kids and other animals. That's also very easy. I have a lot of people call me and say, "Brad, would you like to breed to my dog?" And I say, "Okay, tell me about your dog." And although I know before they even say anything, I have zero interest in breeding to this dog. You see
Yeah.
what I mean?
Right.
I still listen to them because
Mm-hmm.
if you go up there and ask my mama, say, "Mrs. Cindy, is Brad the best son in the world?" "Yes, he's the best son in the world." And if you go ask Joe's mama,
Yeah.
he's the
Yeah.
best boy in the world. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I say, "Sir or ma'am, I appreciate that you think that your dog is the greatest one there's ever been. That's the way it's supposed to be. Let me hear about your dog." So, "Oh, he's just so sweet. He loves everybody." And I
Mhm.
say, "Okay, what else?" "That's it. He just
Yeah.
loves everybody." And I say, "Well, sir or ma'am, that's really good. I dang sure hope they're good with people. I think every dog mostly is good with people.
Mhm.
Some of them have a problems." I said, "But we just look for more than that." And so after there's temperament, then
Mhm.
they have to go through the function part. And once they start going through the function part, so I did actually, you go on my YouTube channel, and I did like a 10-minute video the other day. It said show lines or working lines.
Okay. Yeah.
and it said which one, because in America, people are like, are you wanting a show dogo or you wanting a working dogo?
Yeah.
And and my answer was there was never meant to be a difference.
It shouldn't be a difference. Yeah.
There shouldn't be a difference.
Yeah.
And what that is you get people that are trying to sell dogs and they say, we don't have the ability to work them. We don't know how to work them. We can't work them. So we're just going to promote what we got. Now they can do that. They can do that. But it was never meant to be to split apart because the dog was made to catch big game. And so my customers, they don't have to take them out there and catch big game. All I say is everybody out there breeding, if you say you're breeding a true dogo, we're going to need to see it work and need to see it do something before we call it a real one. So there's I had dogs that have shown really well at early ages, and everybody just brag and brag and brag and say this is the perfect dog to breed to, and I say no, 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 not yet. He's got a whole other thing he's got to do. He's got to. And so throughout the process of about 2 years, when I'm with the dog, if they screw up real bad, I'll cut them. Now
Right.
I'll use them, but I don't reproduce them. I mean, if they do something like growl at the, if they trying to being mean to another dog all the time and it's hard to correct, anything, I want them to behave just right.
Right.
So, we go hunting with 15, 20 dogs at a time, and we're taking people hunting of all kinds. I'm talking, and this is a true test on a dog. You get a dog that's around me all the time, and then I take my black friends or I take my Mexican friends, my Hispanic friends, and they all have different colors. They all have different accents, and they're different sizes and shapes, and they're around all these people, and they're translating back and forth really easily, and they're handling, all of a sudden they've never seen, a child that looks different than mine, and now they're with this child and they're behaving. I watch all of that. And they have to do so many things right, Brother Joe, that that people don't even think about.
Yeah.
And if they have any issue down the road, like if some of them, if they come up with any type of skin issue that's reoccurring, if they're perfect, but they have that, I won't breed them. If they have any little thing come up like that, I won't breed them. So the dogs that make it, they're a special select few.
Right. Yeah. A lot of stuff you were saying, you were just talking about was showing the stability of the dog. You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
I was
That's the
digging this
mental.
part. Yeah.
That's the mental stability.
Yeah.
And I look at that, and so people come from our kennels everywhere, and I expose them. People of all different nationalities, all over the place, and they're all fine in my kennel. And I have people say, Brad, I had a German Shepherd, and the guy come, and he was my dog jumped on him and bit him, and I was like, man, I won't put up with that.
Mhm.
This was a guy that raised German Shepherds, and I said, I just won't.
Right. Right.
I won't. I won't put up with that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I look for mental stability. I look for attitude, calmness, how quick that they can catch a big boar, and how soon they can shut it off and be covered in blood and be licking the kid's face that right beside them. Um, and the dogs that we have, it gets easier and easier because we have generations of generations of generations of good parents in the dogs that are like that. But if I get a dog that's too aggressive out in the field and I don't like it, I don't breed them.
How much does the pedigree matter to you? Well, I know it mattered to you because who you did, yeah. So, but if it was a novice or someone who was just getting into dogs, what are key things you would want to tell them about uh the pedigree of a dog?
Pedigrees are there for a purpose. They tell us, what, about a good bloodline. Um, and I like pedigrees. There's a reason why Bronny James was so watched as a kid growing up. You know, and he's just watched because his dad is one of the greatest there's ever been. And I don't know if that all got passed down the same way or not, but it's still, people are looking at it when it comes to bloodlines. They want to know that genetics are there. And so I believe in those genetics that are passed down from good dog to good dog. There are things that are kept and preserved that I like, and I've done it a long time to preserve it. To a novice that they just want to have one litter of puppies, I would say get the oldest, truest blood you can. Make sure though there are no health issues in the bloodline, and make sure there's no behavioral problems. And you should be good to go. I'm not saying it's got to be my bloodline to be right. I'm not that kind of guy.
Mhm.
Those are just some of the main things that I would look for. So a pedigree to me is not just about having one good dog in the pedigree. It doesn't get good until you've got about 6 or 8 in the pedigree. So what I try to do is I don't if you've got one good dog in your pedigree, that's a good place to start. If
Mhm.
you got two, one top and one bottom, hey, even better. We got a starting point.
Mhm.
But we don't really get to start knowing what we're doing, like as far as you can see the genetics being passed on until you got 6 or 8 plus in there. When you
Right.
look up in there and you say, we got his grandpa here, his grandma here, his great grandpa here, and through the breeding process, and especially line breeding and tight, knowing when to come out and knowing when to come back in, I can get these dogs with God's help. I just about know what they're going to be when they come out and by the time they're 6 weeks old. But now I've been doing this a long time, and I've been messing with dogs a very, very long time. So somebody says, Brad, how do you know when it's a puppy what it's going to be? And I say, well, have you got about 100 years where I can tell you about that? Because,
Mhm.
my dad, my grandpa, my great grandpa, all this is passed down and through that. So the pedigree for me, it's important to me that you not just have one, we stack it in there, and these pedigrees, they become stacked.
Mhm.
And it's not always about, um, well, let me put it this way. Each of those dogs in there will have something very unique about them that I like, and they're going to bring something to the table. And that's my favorite part. So the dogs that I have right now, they're all fantastic. I will not feed or breed a mediocre dog.
Yeah.
They have got to turn the crank and do it right and be beautiful if they live here and I feed them. And I've got some, they're all great, but they're unique. And so I've got some that are just a little bit more patient than others. And I appreciate that. There are some that they're a little bit faster than the other ones, and I appreciate that. And so you start noticing the little fine things, you
Mhm.
know, you in this little fine. So when you start getting up around that level, and you start looking at like NFL running backs, okay, they're all strong, they're all fast, they all got good hands, they all can jump, and you start looking at the little tiny things that you like and appreciate, maybe about Barry Sanders' footwork, or maybe Tyreek Hill, his, the way he can receiver, or so that's kind of the way it is with the dogs.
So it and this dog intelligence must be off the chain. And of course, we were just talking about stability because you hunting with several types of dogs, right?
Yeah, so what we will do is I will hunt with a bunch of dogos, and then I use my cur dogs to help me find the hogs.
Mm-hmm.
The dogos can do it all themselves, but the landowners, they want me to kill as many as possible. And if I turn my dogos out and they have to run a mile before they catch the hog, well, I've just burned a mile's energy on them.
Mm-hmm.
I have other dogs that are smaller that can do that part, and I want to save those dogs to catch as I want to save those dogos to catch as many as possible. Um, so yeah, they're hunting with another breed of dog, and they're hunting sometimes horseback with horses. They're hunting with four wheelers and can-ams, and they have to know how to navigate the woods. They have to know when they get lost to use their natural instincts. There's a lot of natural instincts in dogs that I keep alive, which most people, if their dog gets out, they're going to lay down and howl and lay there until somebody finds them, and how to survive, how to get back on your own, and how to make a living if you're gone 4 or 5 days. And so there's a lot of those good genetics and those characteristics that we keep alive in those dogs that make them better companions to be around, because they understand so much more and they bond so deeper with the owner, and you're going to battle with them, so they understand a lot. So yeah, they are smart. They got to be able to handle that, all of those scenarios.
Yeah, man. So when you training it, what are the steps to training a hunting dog like this? Or is it on the job training? Do they learn from the other dogs, or certain things you have to implement?
Yeah, so a lot of it, when a Labrador is 6 weeks old, he'll go and start fetching a little ball and bringing it back to you. So it's in the instinct, and
Mm-hmm.
then you work with that lab to make it a world champion.
Right.
Dogos and other dogs, they're going to want to go out and hunt, but we do all kinds of stuff, groundwork. I've got some videos on there of leash work that we do, about learning their name first, the simple things, walking by my side, and we start moving them up. We introduce them to what the game is that we're hunting, and how we want them to go about that, and we start working with them how we want it done. So it's both.
Right. So you stay down there in I almost said South Africa. I mean South Arkansas a lot hunting,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay.
we stay down there a lot. So right now is a good time of the year for me to do podcasts and stuff like this, because it's deer season,
Right.
and we hunt 9 months out of the year. And the only time that we do not hunt is during deer season. And I stay off all the land, and my buddies are sending me pictures of hogs, but they're
Mm.
all trying to kill a big buck. And so right now is the time that my dogs are on vacation. They get healed up, they get rested up. Um, I service all of our equipment. I get it all back in order. If the buggy needs something, if my trailer needs something, I get rid of all of the groceries out of the trailer and get ready for new groceries. It'll take me about 60 to about 2 months, 2.5 months to get ready,
Right.
and then we'll go on our first hunt about the middle of December, and we'll
Okay.
go out one time, and then after Christmas we'll be wide open until next end of next September.
So you said something. You said the landowners have you come out there. So do people call you out there, say, "Hey man, I need this land cleared of Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what they do,
Yeah.
and they'll go out and say they'll they'll trap all they can trap. Get rid of all the dumb ones first, and then there's some that's a little bit smarter, and the guys will hunt them with thermal rifles, and then once they've shot them with all the thermals, all the hogs that won't come out of the thickets and get super shy, then we'll go deep into the swamps and deep into the woods and get them.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Um, what kind of damage do these hogs cause for the snowflakes in the back?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's right, man. They cause a bunch, and I wrote a song. I haven't released it yet, but if you live in these big cities in Florida and you've got money, you know what it's like to come out in your subdivision and see hogs rooting up your flower beds, and guys are getting them out. If you live in Alabama, Mississippi, you know what it's like to have grandma walk outside at night and say, I hear the hogs in the garden, and they're tearing up my garden, and they charged me when I went out there. And then, a little Fifi dog runs out there to bark at the hogs, and the hogs kill it. I mean, that happens all the time.
Mhm.
I mean, people all over the South saying, my dog went out there to bark at the hogs, and the hog killed him.
Right.
And that happens all the time. They get on golf courses, they root up the greens, they get in, and you talk about soybeans and corn and rice and Milo. Man, they get out there, and I'll tell you something that people don't realize they do. And hogs are very, very smart. So every spring of the year, when the farmers are planting, okay, you've seen the big machines that they plant with, the
Yeah.
planters.
Right.
They have a big tub of corn seed on the top, and it'll
Hmm.
go down there in rows, and it's dropping a kernel every 4 or 5 inch, every 3 or 4 or 5 inches down through there, and the rows are just miles long.
Yeah.
After they plant that corn, and that dirt on top of that, the packer will come down and pack it down tight, but it's already been plowed up. Those hogs will not root up the field. They'll put their nose in that same row, which is about that wide, and they'll straddle that line and they'll walk right down that row, and they'll get every single kernel of corn out of that row.
God, really?
So you get 50 hogs in a field at night, which is not uncommon at all, and they all get on a row. One row is 200 yards long, and this next row is 30 yards long, and the next one's 150 yards long. They eat a lot of seed, and they'll do that all during planting season. And so the farmers will lose acres and acres of crops that never did sprout because the seed is gone. Then as it's coming up, they'll start tearing the stalks down.
Wow. How many hogs have you unalived in one day?
Woo! Mercy. Unalived.
This YouTube. So I had to be careful. Would they be like, what you say, boy? We gonna censor you.
I'll tell you, I am going to use that.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that very, very soon on one of my hunts.
Okay.
So the most I have unalived in one day. Now, most people in the South, they will hunt with multiple buggies, with multiple buddies, with multiple packs of dogs, and they can do a lot of damage. Me, by myself, I killed 30. Oh, excuse me. I unalived 30 in one day. And it was me, and it was my buggy and my dogs. And that's it.
Right.
And that I'm going to tell you what, by the time those dogs catch one and you go knife it and you go here and you go there and you're walking, that is a lot of work. I did that. I'm 43 now. I did that 2 years ago. And everything has to be set up just right for that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's uncommon. But many, many times, I mean, I've killed a dozen before lunchtime. And I look at my buddies and I say, boys, that's about enough hard work for the day. Let's go back at the campfire and let's grill or this or that and let the dogs rest. And then sometimes my buddies are like, no, let's hunt the rest of the day. And I was like, yeah, we can. But, you know, a guy like me that's done this for so long and hunted all my life, I was like, it's been a good morning. You know, we killed a dozen hogs this morning. I mean, let's just go relax and enjoy the outdoors a little bit and, you know, sit around the fire and fellowship. And so the older I get, the more that I'll kind of back off at about lunch if I've done as good as, I mean, unless the government, which I work, well, I won't release all that. I talk to a lot of people, but unless they want to kick up and really start paying for it, I'll hunt all day and night, and then I'll make them, you know, have to pay me. But I just hunt, and whenever I get tired, I quit.
So all this meat I got to go pick up. Where we?
Yeah, that's right.
What do y'all do? What do y'all do with all this meat, man?
Well, so what I do with it, most of it, we leave it where it's at, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Most people are like, well, Brad, that's wasteful. Well, here's the deal. I understand that, but these hogs are a nuisance, and I get brought on to relieve the problem. And so every time I have to, if we start hunting, it is not out of the ordinary for me to kill one or two hogs within 15 minutes after turning my dogs loose. If I stop the hunt and take care of those hogs and get them all packaged up and do all that, that's about all I can do for the day. Yeah. I can't go and eradicate hogs. So what we do is I will go through there and I will, as Papa says, I'll lay them in the shade, as many as I can. I stack them up, lay them in the shade, and when it's cold enough, I can go back and get the biggest sows with the most fat on it, and we do stuff at our church functions. I constantly bring one home and it's still enough to feed people. You know, I mean, the last one of the day, it's like, all right, this is the last one of the day. Let's catch this one and let's clean it right here and take it home with us. And we do that a lot. Yeah, but I don't do it to the end of the hunt because we're trying to eradicate as many possible before we stop.
Right. And Mother Nature gonna clean it up anyway.
The coyotes and the buzz, yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. So okay, I got it. Let's talk about this for a minute so people just can understand a little bit about the South. What's the difference in between store-bought pork and the hog you hunt?
So, um, a tame hog, or what we call a listed hog, those are going to be like Duroc, Hampshire, blue butts. They're going to be a meat hog, and they get taller, but more they get longer. Their hips and their shoulders are generally the same height when they're mature, and they have a really long back, and they have long ears. They have a shorter, stubby nose, and they're made to grow a lot of meat. They grow really, really quickly, especially with what they feed them at your local slaughterhouse. And I've eaten a lot of pork from Walmart and Costco and Sam's and all that, and there's a lot of good pork out there. But a Russian hog, the wild hog, the ones that we're hunting, they are a lot more athletic. I mean, if ever a tame hog gets out, I mean, and we get after him, he can't run but just 30 yards, and he don't want to run. He's just too. They're just lazy, and they're big. These Russian hogs, man, they are wild, and so they have never had a antibiotic near them. They've never had wormer near them. They've never been had a synthetic needle or a. They've never been around any type of medication, but they're drinking the water out of the creek, and they're eating the crops of the field and the acorns, and that will flavor that meat something different like you've never had. And so some people say because they're wild, they don't have as much fat on them. But man, you can take those. What I do is I come home and I quarter them up and I put them in the cooler,
Mm-hmm.
and the bacon off of a hog comes right like your hips down
Yeah.
here,
Right.
like between my ribs and my hips. That's where that bacon's going to be.
Uh-huh.
And if that hog doesn't have enough fat on his hams or his Boston butts up around his shoulders, I'll cut off that bacon and I'll put in there and smoke that with it. Man, it's good.
Man.
It is good.
Yeah, yeah. I've never had any well hog, but people always tell me, and my wife, she's funny about different stuff. She won't eat deer meat, but she said that wild hog is she old country girl from around here too.
Oh
So
yeah, oh yeah.
yeah, she said that wild hog is something different. Um, what does it take? And I'm about to wrap it up. What does it take to get a dog from you?
So what it takes to get a dog from me is people go to dogobreeders.com, and they fill out a puppy inquiry,
Hmm.
and they tell me their name, their number, where they're from, why you want a dogo. And basically the questionnaire for us breeders is just because if somebody fills it out correctly, they're a serious customer. If somebody gets on there and they skip all the questions, they say, how much for a dog?
Hmm.
They, it helps us narrow it down a lot quicker. Now, my most serious customers will always just pick up the phone and call me. And they say, hey, I haven't done anything yet, but I saw your number and I'm a serious buyer. What have you got? Um, so usually when somebody calls me, I know that they are at the top of the list serious. When they fill out a questionnaire form and they fill it out correctly, I go back there, I respond to them. We set up a phone call and we start talking about their lifestyle, children, other dogs, if the dogo is going to be a good fit for them or not. And I don't try to sell everybody a dog that calls me.
Hmm.
Um, I talked to a vet last night on the phone, and we were looking at doing something for Veterans Day, and he really wanted the dog, and I really wanted him to have the dog. And at the end of the day, after we talked for about 30 minutes, he and I decided maybe it's not best for you to have this dog at this time. And then we become good friends, and he never even got anything,
Right,
And
right.
he's like, man, I got one of my buddies. I think that this service dog would fit him a little bit better. And so we always try to fit it, as good as we can, because I'm not breeding 10 times a year trying to,
Hmm.
you know, I'm trying to move the breed forward. And we're trying to win in show, and we're trying to accomplish things in the field. And yes, I do breed because I have to have more dogs coming on for me,
Hmm.
and my customers, they get to piggyback on my breeding program, and
Hmm.
they get to get some really good puppies because of that.
That's
And
right.
so I will breed my very best dogs that have won um, a lot, and I will let I'll let my customers have 3, 4, 5 litters in a row. And about every 18 months, I say, I got to have a litter for me now. And I'll breed a couple of dogs that nobody knows about. And that litter is never for sale.
Right.
And I'll find the ones that I'm wanting to carry it on.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of how I do it. And so anyway.
Yeah. Now you said something, Direct did. Like a lot of people don't know that, like, especially if you got breeders and people that's on the same wavelength as you, y'all just might do a breeding amongst each other where y'all keep dogs off these certain litters and things like that. But yeah, you gotta appreciate guys like you who breed for first off for yourself and the betterment of the breed, because doing this, I know that I know it's a lot of guys. I hear a lot of young guys that want to live off the dog. I'm like, no, you can't. You can't think like that.
That's
And
right.
yeah, and then I see guys who live off the dogs that don't have what that older breeder used to, what that old school guy used to have.
That's
And
right.
so the game get real nasty
It
when you're
does.
trying to make it a point to live off them dogs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even all of these guys that I talked about, we have other jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And it might get to the point one day to where I just do this all the time, but all my
Right.
life I have worked and did dogs on the side. And when somebody does that, that just tells you they're in. I
Yeah.
mean, they're doing it because they love it. Like, I won't
Yeah.
quit doing this. I mean, I'm not in it just for
Mm-hmm.
just for that.
Right.
And so when it comes like the old school breeding things, like I know some guys that do this, like Ulysses Lacocha in Argentina. He's a
Yeah.
doctor. His wife is a doctor.
Right.
They don't need any money to
Yeah.
live,
Yeah.
but he
Exactly.
goes to work every day because he helps people.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's a doctor, and he still does this. And back to what I was saying, these new guys, these new techniques and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I got like Fuerte and Tocana and Sepa and Agustina and all these great females that are winning and show in Argentina, and everybody knows about those dogs. And I let the public will have some of the fruits of their litters because they want puppies out of these dogs, right?
Mm-hmm.
They want those, and I don't sell them the old no name stuff or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is every now and then, about once a year, I'll have a female that comes along, and I'll see her, and I know at the end of the day that she can accomplish what these others have accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
But I will figure out a special place for her as a bloodline reserve. That way, nothing ever happens to her in the field, nothing, and just in case, so these older guys are going to have stuff on reserve just in case, so that they're going to do things a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
And, they're going to have lots of their semen stored at 2 different sperm banks and maybe even 3 around the world in case a tornado hits one. And then you're going to have the old school guys. Some of us, we do everything, we do lots of it live.
Yeah.
Um, and so everybody's different on those things, but I have learned so much from
Yeah.
the older men and asking questions and learning. And even though that I've got a lifetime experience that's been passed on for many generations, we're still picking up things and we swap back and forth around the globe with other breeders. Like, man, I've never thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell another breeder, something, a little trick that I always do, and he's like, "Man, that's a good idea." And
Yep.
then they tell me something, I'm like, I do something similar, but not quite like that. I think I like your way better, you know.
Right.
And we do it, and that's just dogs in general. That's
Yeah.
not even Dogo specific.
Right. 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 Yeah. You gotta have that. I needed some help. Somebody told me something to watch for. Like I said, oh, I didn't think about that. You know what I mean? And that helped me make a decision and whatnot. Um, Let me see here. Well, I think I'm gonna cut it because I got some stuff going on.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
Go
yeah,
check on that Jip. Make sure she's okay.
yeah.
And I'll tell you, That C-section. Have you
Mhm.
ever done many of those?
Yeah, I don't know. Did about 3 of them.
Okay, well, never mind. And I was just gonna.
Yeah.
We could
Yeah.
edit this out. I was just gonna talk about.
No, go tell it so the people can hear it. You know, this is wide open over here.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
a C-section. You know, if a dog has to have one of those, a lot of people are scared. But I was gonna, let all of our viewers out there that are watching, a C-section is not the end of the world.
Mhm.
Um, it can be beneficial to the mother to save their life, and
Mhm.
one plus that comes out of it is what she'll lay real still to heal
Mhm.
for those first couple of days, and that gives the puppies a real good opportunity to get that first in them. They all need that first colostrum,
Mhm.
and those I don't ever cut on a female unless we absolutely have to.
Mhm.
But if and it's only a have to, this has got to be done situation.
Right.
But it can save the mother's life, and it can save some puppies' life.
Mhm.
And if there's any benefit at all, the puppies will get the first 2 or 3 days of really good laying real still, mom not moving. And so send her home. They'll have an IV in her, probably give her some feel good stuff. But
Mhm.
this is going to sound a little crazy. Here's a tip from an old guy: give her pain meds. She's going to need them, but don't give her too much pain meds.
Right.
You and a lot of people say, "Well, Brad, that's cruel." Well, she feels too good. She gets up too soon, and worse things happen. It,
Right.
you know, and that's the way we do with my son breaks a bone. We take pain meds as we need it, but we don't want to feel him too good. He'll get up and hurt himself even worse. And
Right.
so give that dog a little bit and get her comfortable, but don't over medicate her.
That's right.
She'll lay on those puppies. She'll smother them. She's drunk.
Mhm.
She'll think she's fully healed. She'll bust her stitches open.
Yeah.
It's better to let her be comfortable, but not too comfortable.
You're exactly right because whenever if you're a breeder, you're gonna go through these things, and when you first see it, the mom having to see, she gonna be wonky. You gonna be like, "Oh, what's going on with my dog?"
Yeah,
It's gonna kind of scare you the first time you ever do it. You know what I mean?
yeah, that's
But
right.
yeah. So, but brother Brad, man, I appreciate it. It was such a good conversation. Such a knowledgeable man, and man,
Yeah, let's do it again. Think
we
of
should do it again. Yeah.
any questions you have specifically, because we just kind of,
Right.
every time we talk, people don't. We talked about several different things nobody's ever asked me before, and so
Right. Yeah.
well,
Yeah. That's what my show about, man. If you look at it a little bit, I have repeat guests. I got people all over. I got bulldog beard, all kind of people around the world. Let me ask you this one more question because Kyle from the UK. Kyle asks, has any of your dogs ever titled for any pers- protection sports? Has anybody ever did that with one of your dogs?
So, that dogos, that's a good question, Kyle. So that is just now starting to become a thing
Mhm.
with dogos. Like I said, they're a little newer, but more people are now beginning to use them. And so lots of my dogs have had police training and they've done very well.
Mhm.
That the sport is new and the dog breed is newer, so there's not a lot like in that have my bloodlines that have accomplished a lot of big titles yet. But I hope that one day people will keep using them. They always go towards the shepherd breeds and the Malinois, and the shepherds, and all of those dogs are great in the bite protection sports. Dogos are just trying to kindly start making the scene. I get lots of people that call me and ask me that question because they're wanting to try it. They're wanting to try it. And I tell them, I don't really have time to get into that. It's not something that I really want to do. I'm a redneck. I'll just be honest with you. My talent with these dogs, I'm a lot better use to the farmer in the field
Mhm.
of doing what I do.
Yeah.
And that is all I've ever done. And we train dogs for bite protection, and yes, they do great, do fantastic. But no, they haven't not been explored long enough at that level where we really know yet. Now I know they'll do it because they can do all the individual things for me that they're doing in those competitions, and I can have those dogs do it at home. but we don't have anybody out showcasing them in the tournaments yet, going to tournament to tournament to tournament to make sure that they receive these awards and follow through with it. So that's not out there yet as much as I'd like it to be. There is a little, but not a lot.
Cool. All right, we'll end it on that.
Man, thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, brother Brad Sneed. Catch y'all next time.
See you, man.
All right, brother.
And that wraps up another episode of NWA Connie Corsos. Thank you for being a part of our Connie Corso community. Remember, you can stay connected with us beyond the podcast. Find us on all major media platforms by searching for NWA Connie Corsos. Whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube. Just hit that follow button to join the conversation and get the latest updates. If you have a burning question or want to apply to be a guest on our show, we'd love to hear from you. Simply shoot us an email at nwaconniecorsos@gmail.com. And if you're a business interested in becoming a sponsor, reach out to us at the same email address. For more resources, exclusive content, and links to all our social media profiles, visit our website at nwaconniecorsos.com. It's your go-to destination for everything dogs. Thank you once again for tuning in, and we can't wait to bring you more exciting episodes where we explore the fascinating world of dogs.